Fuck, I'm gonna list me some cookies. Shit.
She just clicked it.
Is it on? How do we look?
Great.
So did you read for Uruz?
A little, not as much as I wanted to.
Okay. Did you at least read the little book?
Yes.
Alright.
Just the gamble is how much do I remember about it.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to take a look at the card?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Okay. Are these the cards that come with the
Christian book?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, I can
Are
see
we good?
Yeah.
Lexi?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Hi there, everyone. Today we are doing our rune group, and we're talking about the rune Uruz, the second rune. Alright. Now, I'd like to share with you a couple of visuals relating to Uruz. I've got a collage that I did. And then if you could show them the wonderful card. Yeah, go up next to me and show them.
How's that? Visible? Okay.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Alright, so those are a couple of visuals for Uruz. Now, Uruz was basically translated is the aurochs, or the wild cattle. And so it's very, very similar to Fehu in that way, because Fehu is the domesticated cattle. And so we talked about Fehu last week. He wasn't here. And so this is his, well, this is Fehu's wild brother, for lack of a better word. Now, I actually see this rune as very, very masculine.
Yeah.
We were actually talking about this last night, how Uruz is a very masculine rune, as opposed to Fehu, which is a lot more feminine. Many people would say that was because Fehu is the cow without the horns, as opposed to Uruz, which is the cow with the horns. And so it has that much more violent nature to it.
Uruz, to me, mostly in its reverse thing, reminds me of the bull, you know. But if you look at it, how it is presented upon the rune, you know, down like that, it's almost like the bull has put his head down. That's I don't know, that's a visual I get.
Well, there's actually a couple of different ideas as to why the rune is shaped the way that it is. One is that the reason why the horns are downward facing is because that's bringing his power, his vitality, and putting it into the earth.
Oh, interesting. Kind of like Taurus, then.
Actually,
Yeah.
Taurus is the astrological correspondence to Uruz. So, I was going to get to that later, but we can talk about that. So yeah, just to let you guys know, the positive characteristics of Taurus, which is from the 22nd of April to the 21st of May, is easygoing, friendly, patience, sensual, pleasure-oriented, ability to generate material wealth, stable, realistic, practical, reliable, enduring. Very much like this room.
Sounds like a very good friend of mine who is a Taurus. So,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'd be Taurus. And we also talked about how it was male, didn't we? I just like to check it off to make sure that we talked about it. Alright, so the other theory is that I don't have a very good... Probably shouldn't be drawing this in red, because red is the power for runes, so... Just woke up Uruz! Yay! So, as you can see, one theory is that these are the horns of the cow facing downward. The other theory is that this would be the cow itself. So if I can just kind of cow it up a little bit here, that would be Uruz!
Interesting.
And so, because cattle specifically have a larger front half, and their butt's kind of tiny and slopes down a little bit.
You will notice that in, you know, Jersey cows. So.
Yeah, and so it's very
a farm boy. I'm sorry.
very common with the cows to have that slope back from the very large chest area to the very tiny fanny. And so that's one theory. The other theory is that's his horns going down and bringing the manifestation of his wild, chaotic energy into the earth. sometimes there.
Hmm.
Talked about how, okay, so, and so with that idea of the wild cow, we also have this idea of the rite of passage. The reason why the horns are going into the earth is because the cow has been killed for any reason, and that's why his horns are going down, because he's going down. And so that's the idea of having to hunt for your food, as opposed to Fehu, which is a lot more of the domesticated cow, which you don't have to do work for it. I mean, you have to do work for it, but you don't have to, there's no fighting against death in that one. There's just like the milking of the cow, the butchering of it, and so on and so forth. That's Fehu. As opposed to Uruz, which has to do with the idea of the hunt. Going out there and pitting yourself against this wild, pissed off cow. And actually the Aurochs was humongous.
What is that, the Aurochs?
The Aurochs is actually an extinct type of cow.
Okay.
It's about 6 feet tall at the shoulder. It was humongous. It was slightly smaller than an elephant.
So like draft horse size.
It was humongous. Yes.
Yeah, we're talking like Clydesdale size. That's a big cow.
We're talking big cow.
Yeah.
And then it had allegedly it had a horn span of 6 feet.
Not impossible. I mean, if
No.
you look at some of the big, huge water buffaloes that exist,
Big horns. And so what cultures that were around the Aurochs would do is, in order for a young man to get into, have his rite of passage to become into adulthood, is he needed to kill one of these by himself.
Good luck.
Yeah. Now, seeing as this thing is like, one of his legs is twice this kid's size, it's a tough task. And so, with that, you have that idea of a rite of passage, of initiation, specifically of going from the stage of childhood to the stage of adulthood. So, and then of course that's through the idea of death. So this rune actually has inside of it a lot of ideas of mortality and the virile energy that fights against it. So it's also a very good healing rune in that respect. It's bringing that life force into somebody in order to have them fight their way past a disease. So it's a very big healing rune as well.
Could it also, I mean, I noticed you used the word virile. Could it also then promote youthfulness almost? Then?
Hand off your face.
Could it also pronounce youthfulness?
It definitely has a youthful nature to it, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it would promote usefulness. Last week we talked about how Fehu represented young love. This would, yeah.
Okay.
And so this one, Uruz, would represent the young warrior.
Oh, okay. So if we're going to look at archetypes, I mean that would be like Fehu would be a lover, and Uruz would be the hero, in a sense.
The hero isn't all. The thing is, the hero isn't always a warrior per se.
True.
This is very much a warrior aspect.
Okay.
They fight things and kill things. Very, again, with the death-oriented, or the fighting against death-oriented.
Okay.
We actually have as the planetary ruler of Uruz, Mars.
Really?
Yes, the planetary ruler of Uruz is Mars. Where did my notes on Mars go? Mars? Oh, there you are. And so, for Mars, you have the tenet, I assert. You have expressing positivity, to fight for your beliefs, to make something happen, to destroy the enemy and fight for justice. One of the big things here is you see this idea of violence. But in Uruz, the violence is the correct application of that violence.
So assertiveness as opposed to aggression.
Yes, assertiveness. So it would be basically telling somebody to stop when they're overstepping their boundaries into your space area, being able to put up those barriers and say, all right, this is my personal space. You can't do things to me if I don't want you to. It's very grounded. It's very, again, with the Tauros, it has that feeling to it.
That's very interesting, though, because we say it's astrological association is Taurus.
Yes.
But its planetary ruler is Mars.
Yes.
That's very interesting because if you look at astrology, Mars is with Aries.
Yes.
And I don't remember what Taurus is, but
I want to say Venus.
Yeah, but if with those two signs being Aries and Taurus, they really clash.
What?
That's funny. I don't know if it's supposed to be kind of a...
No, it's the thing is Aries is not... The astrological ruler of this is not Aries.
Right.
It's Taurus.
Right.
Which brings in that gentling into it.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
It's that fighting spirit used when it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of Taurus being a part of this kind of chills it out a little bit.
Okay.
So that it's not that I'm going to fight everybody I bump into. For example, you've got as the deity of this particular rune, you've got two deities ruling this rune, Thor and Urd.
Oh, really?
And so with Thor, he's not this big angry brute like Mars. I mean, no offense to people who are chill with Mars, but he's kind of an in-your-face, I'm gonna, mess up your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna kick your butt and you're gonna deal with it. Whereas Thor still has that same God of War image, but he's a lot more of a defensive God of War.
Mm-hmm.
He's more just like, if you mess with my friends, I'm not going to stand for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of funny if you're looking at a deity point. Like the Norse have a lot of gods of war. Like Tyr would be considered a god of war.
That's true, and they all have different aspects to them. And
and
Thor is more of a defensive god of war.
And Thor apparently falls into the sorcerer archetype of the god, which means he's a bit more. He comes across a bit more advanced in age.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never really thought of him as a sorcerer.
Well, the archetype, kind of.
Because doesn't Odin fit that archetype a little bit more?
Odin, in according to my study.
Listening.
Oh, I thought you were making a face like you had a question from the internet.
You're getting interested. Keep going.
Oh, okay.
Odin kind of fits into the king archetype.
But he's also a lot more magic based. Like him and Freya are the ones who have the magic systems. Thor's always come off a little oafish.
Not to me. Not to me.
He's
That's funny.
With Thorn, for example, which is something that we'll do, I believe, next week is Thorn. Yeah. We'll talk a lot more about Thor next week in when we do Thorn.
Mm-hmm.
His room. But yeah, like when I was doing my reading about Thorn last time I did this, I looked up Thor, and he's kind of, in my mind, he's more like that football captain, older brother. He's a big sweetheart. Don't get me wrong, always stands up for his buddies, but he has a tendency to let his momentum get ahead of him. He has a tendency to kind of be just like, what?
On the subject of Odin being sorcerer.
Yeah?
The first degree of the Karelian tradition places Odin as sorcerer and king as Thor.
Oh, okay.
King as Thor, really?
The lover, Baldur.
Oh,
Baldur,
yeah, the one that was killed.
Hero, Tyr.
Yeah,
Hero,
makes sense.
Hela.
Yeah, Hell, of course.
Mother, Freyja.
Yeah.
Maiden, Freya.
Weird. I don't see Freya as the maiden.
Yeah, she is.
She's
by
maiden,
far.
yeah.
She is.
Oh, yeah.
By far.
I feel like she's more mother, though.
She feels a lot more like Athena to me. That if we want to go Greek here.
But Athena I perceived. I don't know.
As
where I
being
place-
maternal?
Not necessarily. I don't really know where she is, but I wouldn't place Athena being wisdom.
She's wisdom in battle, just like Freya.
True.
Freya's got much more tricks and magic to her, but
I wouldn't be a follower of Freya if she wasn't maiden. I like the maiden feel.
the maiden feel. No, I don't.
Thank you.
There was an interpretation that I read. Granted, it's only one. It's not several sources that mentioned Thor could potentially have been a sorcerer archetype. I prefer Odin as a sorcerer archetype.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen Thor do magic.
Well, I mean, with his whole the thunder aspect of him.
But that's just him hitting shit.
True. Fair enough.
See, there's no magic to that. That's him going, I make thunder, bam! I mean, no offense, Thor's a really chill guy. He's that big, I see him as this big, bulky older brother. He's a quarterback on the football team, and he's got like 15 younger sisters. And so he's got that real feminine aspect to him. He'd totally sit down and have tea party with them. And he has that masculinity to be just like, what, you have a problem with the fact that I have tea parties with my little sisters?
I mean, the thing that probably confused me is that Odin, how he was introduced to me years ago, was as king of the Norse pantheon. Yeah. But he is the way he's been portrayed was white-haired with the
Thor?
No. Odin, white-haired and everything.
Which means that he's a little bit more wizardly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do want to get away from the discussion of gods and get back to Uruz.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So yeah, those are the. So you've got that feeling of very much family-centeredness with Uruz.
Okay.
And that idea of with Tauros, that idea of home being like paramount, and you've kind of got this like territorial bit to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like necessarily aggressive, but if you step on the bounds, it is very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And just so that you guys know, this is backed up by some external sources. For example, in the Old English rune poem, you've got Arux is courageous and has huge horns. A very fierce beast, it fights with its horns. A notorious moor stalker, it is a brave creature. So obviously the moor would be where it lives, and
swampy area, huh?
A moor is actually kind of like a big, slightly swampy kind of field.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so by stalker it means that he kind of wanders around it, and so the Arux was a very territorial creature, and he wouldn't mess with you unless you were in his territory, much like other herd animals with horns.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got that idea of the safety and the environment. You've got that idea of the physicality that you're always practicing to make sure that you're built up for if something bad happens. It's a very good preparatory rune like that. It's got that strength when you need it, and you're always making sure that you've got it. So we could go back to the idea of the rite of passage just for a second. In a rune cast, the way that would show up is this idea of an opportunity disguised as loss or danger or a risk.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have this idea of, and it's always like a huge change when this rune appears in a rune cast, especially especially upright, which is, with a 2 staves down. That sounds backwards, but and so it's always a huge change. And at first it feels devastating, but then you realize that humongous change that is very uncomfortable at first was for the better. Which happens with the rite of passage, going from being a child to being an adult really sucks at first.
Yeah, it's an unpleasant experience.
Yeah. He knows, he's going through it.
Yay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got that. And then, so also with that, you have this idea of freedom. And now this is actually one of the words that was bouncing around in every account that I read about Uruz, but it never explained it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We went offline.
We went offline?
I've been doing that recently.
Well, that computer has a really shitty connection to the internet. What are you doing? Do you need help?
Okay. Keep it going.
Are we good?
Yep.
Okay.
Alright, so this idea of freedom is something that they never really explained in any of them. They just kind of like tossed it out there and they're just like, oh, freedom. There you go.
Well, I can see, I mean, in association with the rite of passage, like all of a sudden you've gone through your rite of passage, you've earned your own independence.
Okay.
That's one way to, I think.
So with the independence.
Yeah. Perhaps.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's actually where I was going to go with it. Thank you. Alright, so also with this, so we've talked about how it's a rite of passage,
Mm-hmm.
how it involves this idea of death.
Mm-hmm.
We also talked about it, how it's a very homey kind of protection. There's that aggressiveness to it, but aggression placed in the right directions.
Like a household guardian almost. Would that be applicable?
I've never really met that many very aggressive household guardians.
Well, I don't really know too much about household guardians. That's why I
Yeah.
ask. I'm not sure. Because
Yeah.
I know some that somehow, sometimes in Asian cultures, they put the household guardian as fairly aggressive. I don't know. No.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Maybe not.
But anyways, with that idea, we also talked about how it has something to do with health
Mhm.
and vitality. And so with that also comes the idea of the person who brings you health. And it's usually health through getting rid of bad spirits. So it does have a lot to do with shamanism.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess in that kind of way I could see where a house guardian would come into it. But so it has to do with shamanism as well as religious law. It also has this idea of the chaotic energy of the universe being patterned out, being put into, this is this, this is this, this is this, this is how things are going to go. So it's that idea of taking this wild chaos, which is, the idea of the wild bull, and then kind of patterning it out.
Mhm.
With a herd, they eventually kind of get kind of like a herd mentality and kind of have this area that they go around and kind of ease into a routine of things.
Mhm.
And so that's where you get this idea of the shamans being that healing energy that goes into removing these evil spirits, and also this religious law, this chaos of spirituality placed into, this is how this works, this is how this works.
Interesting.
Um,
Tenants almost.
Something like
Yeah.
that. Because when this comes to the idea of the rite of passage, you've got this one creature that they're sacrificing. And this is something that I've always seen with early cultures that are coming into a patriarchal kind of society as opposed to the matriarchal. That's when they start hunting things, because the men have to go out and stare this creature like eye to eye and then have to end its life.
Mhm.
It's a very stressful thing for men.
Mhm.
Actually, for anybody who hunts, they know the how very close you have to get to that creature, and how you feel like you and that creature have to share a bond, and you're taking that creature's life to help sustain your own. And so that goes into that. And so you have the divine bull in a lot of cultures.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so
Cows sacred to Hindus.
yeah. And so when you get this divine bull, that's finding the divine in nature.
Mhm.
And sympathetic magic.
Mhm.
It's when you very first learn that these creatures we're not killing them wantonly. We're using their life in order to create our life. And so that's very sympathetic. That's saying, all right, now these creatures are part of us. And that's kind of where we get this idea of totem animals.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, not exactly where we get it, but these creatures are a part of us.
Yeah, something else that
Yeah.
contributes, yeah.
Also with this idea of this energy coming together and patterning out, it's the wild energy bringing manifestation. It's this idea of creation. It's the idea of breaking down old forms and creating new ones.
Still more change.
Change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, for example, breaking down the old form of childhood to create the new form of adulthood.
Interesting.
And then you get from the chaos order, and you'll notice that a lot of these are pairs of opposites.
Yeah, lots of polarities.
Lots of polarities. So this is a very polarity-based room. And so what much of its strength is this idea of the tension of opposites.
A give and take, almost.
A give and take.
Yeah, okay.
And so actually with that, you've got, numerologically, it corresponds to the number 2. So there you go. The number for tonight is 2. We want to Sesame Street this up.
Second room. Yeah.
Second room.
2 legs.
Right.
Yeah.
Then, so with this idea of this energy going into manifestation, you've also got this idea of the unconscious mind coming into manifestation, into the conscious mind.
Okay. So subconscious into conscious. Relating that to the shamanic stuff.
Yeah.
Would that have anything to do with the shadow?
Not really.
Not
with,
really.
When we go to the shaman, it would be all the myths that the shaman has. This idea of the religious law.
Oh, okay.
And all of the symbols that the shaman interprets.
So almost giving meaning to symbology.
That's what the unconscious is.
Okay.
The symbols having meanings that we only understand within the conscience.
Oh, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So with this idea of it being a very subconscious thing, it's a very slow working rune. It's something that kind of starts out slow and builds up momentum and takes that momentum and really goes. And that's kind of where Thor comes in.
Now I understand Thor. Okay.
Yeah.
Thor confuses me. So that's
Thor's a really chill dude, but once you get him going, he just goes.
Yeah.
And that's why he comes in with Thorn, is because Thorn is that idea of I get by with a little help from my friends.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so that's Thor. He has a lot of friends, and he's always looking out for his buddies, and then he just goes, and everybody's just like, well, there he goes. He's doing great stuff, but we need to grab him before he falls off the cliff. Really great guy.
So he would fall more into warrior, hero, and all that. Okay. Kind of.
Tyr's more of a warrior hero.
Okay, but yes.
Thor's more the hometown hero. He's the guy that everybody likes, and you're just like, good job, Thor.
Big bro.
Big brother.
Big bro. Okay.
So, and then the thing with Uruz is there's another rune poem that doesn't necessarily talk about the Aurochs, which is really annoying.
Is this one of the Eddas?
Oh yeah. Now this one comes from the Icelandic rune poem. Or drizzle, are the clouds' tears, the destruction of harvesting, the hatred of the shepherds. And then from the Viking rune poem, drizzle, or slag, proceeds from brittle iron. The reindeer often runs on icy snow. Yeah.
Very symbolic there.
Yup. What of what? The thing is, most modern interpreters kind of just ignore those two poems, and they're just like, yeah, we're just going to talk about the Aurochs. Screw this whole drizzle shit.
Huh.
Yep.
I don't know what to take from that. Let's ignore. I've never.
Hail Freya.
So wait. So you're saying modern interpreters?
Modern interpreters usually ignore those. And they just talk about the Aurochs, and they're just like, so this is one of the rune poems, but we're not going to care about it. We're going to talk about Aurochs now. So they give you the poems, but then they don't explain them.
Well, meaning drizzle or slag.
Mm-hmm.
Being the first syllable of Uruz or Ur.
Uh-huh.
Ur would be how to pronounce it in Icelandic. So Uruz would be the first part of that is the word for drizzle. So what would Uz mean? You know?
No, well, in the Viking rune poem and in the Icelandic, it's just Ur.
Oh, it is just Ur.
Yeah.
I'm at a loss.
So, what I've got from this, and actually I didn't really get it. I found a couple of sources.
Better than what I got, which is nothing.
Yeah.
So.
I've got that a lot of, well, anybody who talks about it talks about how during the creation story, at the very beginning, before there's anything else, there is just the two different realms. There's the realm of fire and the realm of ice, whose names I blank on. And then when they come together, they form this drizzle.
Because the ice is melting.
Because the ice is melting.
Okay.
And they form a foam, which is this drizzle that they talk about in these two poems. And from this drizzle or foam is created the giant Ymir. I think it's Ymir. Or Emir or something like that.
Yeah, it rings a bell.
The very first frost giant is created from this, as well as as well as the divine cow. And so basically, what you've got there is this idea of chaos, drizzle, turning into actual order in beings.
Interesting.
Yep.
And so you're calling those ice giants, right?
Ymir is the very first of the ice giants.
Very first of the ice giants.
Yes. Then basically what happens is in the creation myth is then the cow starts licking at the foam because the cow is hungry, and uncovers the first two gods.
Oh.
And so that cow is this idea. Many people will actually associate that cow with Uruz, but actually the translation of her name is hornless one, so she doesn't have horns. It's not
That'd be
Uruz.
more Fehu.
That's more Fehu.
Okay.
I have seen a couple of people say that the primordial cow is Fehu rather than Uruz.
And actually you could almost relate her to how some modern pagans look at primordial deity or primordial goddess. Yeah.
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 She's very much more like a primordial goddess.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to Uruz, who's a little bit more aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uruz would be, in my mind, more that drizzle at the very beginning.
Okay.
And it coalescing into the two creatures. So I can. It's more like the creation of that cow as opposed to the cow itself.
Okay. Huh. Interesting.
And so that's more how I see it.
Sound to me.
Yeah. Yep. So that's all I have. And then also you have this idea in many different cultures of the purification properties of water. And so that's also where this idea of the drizzle would come in as the purification aspect of Uruz.
Because you said it was also a way to rid of negativity.
Negativity.
Yeah, many meditations that I've participated in have used the idea of water to clear yourself. Like picturing yourself wading through a river, going from one bank to the other bank, and all of a sudden your clothes are clean. Therefore, you've gotten rid of all the negativity you had.
Right.
So yeah.
And so this idea of the drizzle would be this cleansing property. So it would also go back into that shamanism that we talked about, as well as the health through getting rid of the negative. And let's see, is there anything else I forgot? With that comes the idea that the color for Uruz. The color associated with Uruz is a dark green.
Oh, really?
Dark green.
Yeah, green is the color of good health.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And so that dark green, in my mind, is kind of more of the army fatigue green. So
Yeah.
then you also have that idea of preparation for defense in case it's needed.
It's also very earth-based, too.
Yeah, very
So,
earth-based. That's actually the element. Yes?
Lost internet.
Again?
We've lost it like 3 times.
Okay.
It's being horrible.
I'm almost done.
Okay.
That computer is really, really shitty with getting the internet. If my computer worked, we would be doing it on that. That's why we've been doing it on that. But my
Okay.
computer's been
Back
dead.
up.
We're back up? Okay. And so that's why the element, we talked about how earthy it was with that idea of the color green. Earth is actually its element.
Oh, it is. Well,
It is.
Taurus being the very
That doesn't really,
earth-based.
yes. But you can't, just like we talked about how Mars is the astrological ruler.
Yeah,
we
you can't really. You have to think of it as its own separate
Yes, each-
category.
yeah.
But the relations,
Yep.
but nonetheless.
Yep. Then for the tarot, most people associate Uruz with the priestess, which is equilibrium, psychic ability. So it actually, that falls more on the side of the idea of the shamanism base of Uruz. But I've also heard Uruz being compared to the chariot, which makes a little bit more sense to me.
Something being pulled by a great ox. Yeah.
And so the chariot represents triumph of the will, surmount opposition, success, self-control, ability to determine one's own destiny.
Yeah, that screams more Uruz to me.
Yeah, physical and mental strength, power, travel, and then reverse, the chariot represents illness. So there you go, more Uruz.
Yeah.
I also talked about the deities. The gemstone associated with Uruz is carbuncle, also known as garnet.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
garnet. This
one stone I definitely don't know anything about.
this one's actually really great for business. It protects you when you're on trips. It brings consistency to friendships, which we talked about earlier with this. Cleanse and purify.
Water. More of the water, yeah.
And the shamanism. It's also used to get rid of evil spirits, which is again that shamanism and that purification. Compassion. If I can read directly, the garnet is a stone of purity and truth, as well as a symbol of love and compassion. The information released in a search using garnet may be painful, but is always what the searcher needs. Exactly that idea of a painful loss that actually is more beneficial in the long run.
Definitely reminds me of how blunt the runes can be and should be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It also increases sex drive, garnet.
Well,
and
that's
Uruz is a very masculine kind of rune in that sense. So yeah, good for that too. If you're a dude.
Or a female.
Yeah. There are better runes for female ones though.
better stones too.
True.
Yeah.
And then for its herbal kind of things, we've got its tree is the birch, which is a little weird to me because it's the birch tree is gender is feminine, its planet is Venus, its element is water. But
well, more polarity with Uruz though. So it just it makes sense to me though.
Yeah. I mean, with the idea of the Venus and Mars, those are always polarities of each other, and the planetary ruler of Fehu is Venus. So it makes sense that Uruz and Fehu are very balanced when it comes to this. Birch is specifically good at removing evil spirits that are possessing somebody. It can banish the evil eye. It protects you from lightning. Traditionally, the witch's broom is made out of it, and cradles are made from birch to protect the innocent children that are lying within it.
Very maternal.
Very, not necessarily maternal. Because maternal is more nurturing, which is more on the side of Feyhu. Protection is
okay.
I would say it's more paternal.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Because you still have that idea of family with the children, and it's more protecting that family, not caring for it. It's getting all the things that it needs to survive. It's very survival based. It's very going out and getting things done. It's fighty. It's very much the paternal leader of a family.
Birch also makes a great staff.
Yeah.
A friend of mine has one, that's all.
You need to speak up when you talk.
Oh, I'm
Instead
sorry.
of mumbling. And then its plant is Icelandic moss. And this one actually gave me grief because it... I'm serious! It wasn't in Cunningham's.
Oh, it wasn't? I'm
No.
surprised. I'm very surprised you can't find something in Cunningham.
Yes, Icelandic moss. Not in Cunningham's.
Does it have another name?
Lichen, which again is not in Cunningham's.
Lichen.
Lichen.
Huh.
That's how it's pronounced. I got a book learner over there. Says the book learner. So I had to look it up from a different source. Funny enough, Iceland moss actually has a lot of medical uses. It's used in cough drops as a cough suppressant.
Interesting.
It helps heal slow healing wounds.
Like gashes? Or such?
It doesn't really specify what kind of slow healing wounds. It just says that it is externally it is used for slow healing wounds. Some of the examples are boils, impetigo, and a couple of other ones that are not. Impetigo.
Yeah.
See, book reader.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's actually more often used in internal things.
Oh yeah.
It's used for to treat food poisoning, loss of appetite. It's a cough medicine. Yeah. It's actually,
all purpose.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
It's actually strongly antibiotic.
Oh wow.
Which is why it's used.
That's why the
in
Icelandic people are so healthy.
Yeah, there you go. Just munch up that lichen.
Yeah.
And so this idea of it treating the slow healing wounds, that goes along again with this idea of the subconscious and the slow working.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there you go. So Icelandic moss, as much of a pain in the butt it was to look up, actually is very fitting. And actually, funny story, it's also used to make confections. This is in your ice cream, folks.
Eat more sweets.
Yeah. So there you go. It's made into a gel.
Huh.
And used in these things.
Probably put it like in a jelly bean or something. It'd be
Um,
strange tasting.
well, you mix it with the lemon, the sugar, chocolate. It's actually chocolate,
Really?
almonds. You use it to make almond paste. So more than likely, it's in marzipan. I know for a fact that it's in ice cream. Ice cream.
Well,
Yep.
that's an excuse to go out and eat ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
What about ice cream?
Uruz is in ice cream.
Like an ice cream cake shaped like Uruz, you know.
Fudgy the whale. Who needs Fudgy the whale when you can have Uruz the ox made of ice cream?
Oh dear.
All right. So other than that, that's pretty much all I got, guys.
Which is a lot.
That is.
It is a lot.
Questions, comments, concerns.
Funny story.
Anybody think that I screwed up on Uruz? I know people get upset when I don't think that it's the cow in the creation myth. It's a commonly held belief. I think that's more Fehu.
Yeah, I tend to agree that it's more Fehu.
Yeah.
Because
More feminine.
yeah, I mean
So that idea of nurturing rather than going out and getting stuff.
it's also the vocabulary for me. If you're gonna say cow, you know, cows seem, you know, like hornless, like well, the hornless cows, the milk bearing cows are women, are female.
Actually, in wild cows, both the males and the females have horns.
Oh,
Yeah. Just so that you know.
yeah. Well, that's yeah.
Yeah, bison, all that jazz. Aurochs.
It's a little different though with the Highland cows in Scotland.
But are they wild?
Yes, but the females do not have horns. But the males have these grand horns. They might have little stubs, but they don't have like great big grand horns.
Anyway, so do we
Highland
have
cows are
any?
more like
Did
yaks.
anybody online have anything to say about Uruz?
Nope.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
Has there been anybody out there?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Hi guys. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I got for Uruz. That concludes this week. Next week, we will be talking about Thor's Rune. Fun one. This is actually one of my favorites. So yeah, see you next week. And in the meantime, if you enjoyed, I don't know if you can see me at all. If you enjoyed, if you enjoyed this and any of our other study groups, we do accept donations. We are entirely donation based. If we don't get donations, we don't run. So if you guys like what you see, you like the programming that we have on, donate to us so that we can keep doing it.
Can you hug that a little more?
Your donations keep me getting books.
Feed us.
Feed us. Or buy product on our website or our eBay. Any little penny helps for any reason. So thank you guys for your support, and I'll see you guys next week. Are we off?
Nope.
We should be off.
Yeah, I was supposed to be.